going to do a little bit of reading. Someone wanted me to read the beginning of Medieval Song and Story. I will do a little bit of the introduction. I've not really got too much of a reading voice on today. The Vigil. But I was up for reading a little bit of it. Yeah, the beginning of this is good, the introduction. It's an old painting called The Vigil. You see that on your end, Sprocket? This is not alive, but happening now. It's about 10 past 4. This is a very good book. I probably will not get through the whole introduction now. I think I'm going to read just probably the first paragraph. My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains my sense. Robin Hood and a Guy of Gisborne. When Shaw's been sheen and shreds full fray, and leaves both large and long, it is merry walking in the friar forest to hear the small bird's song. The wood-wheel sang and would not cease amongst the leaves align, and it is by 2 white yeomen, by dear God that I mean. My thought they did me beat and bind, and took my bow me fro. If I be Robin alive in this land, I be rockin' on both them two. Rockin' with a W. I'll be rockin' on both them two. It says this ballad is a good specimen of the Robin Hood cycle, and is remarkable for its many proverbial and alliterative phrases. A few lines have been lost between stanzas, and Gibstone is a market town in the West Riding of the county of York County, on the borders of Lancashire. Yeah, it talks about different cycles throughout a lot of these different books. Many people don't seem to like talking about that stuff for some reason. When you start talking about cycles and patterns, I guess I don't know, depending on what it's associated to. Right, exactly. Yeah, many believe as though you're saying they're not being themselves, they're just repeating or doing something that was done before. It's like they totally miss the mark all the time with a lot of these things. You can't force people to have common sense, I guess. It just is or it isn't, I don't know. Yeah, also, of course, with a lot of these cases, the people who are usually speaking out about those things, and no matter what emotion they show, it's considered a mental illness or to the extreme, anger, sadness. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Yeah, you're either depressed or you're angry, you need pills, or should be in a mental institution, when the same exact behavior and statements and concerns in another environment is totally normal and talked about all the time. It's very strange, and they get way more angry and theatrical than we do sometimes. I know, considering, I know it's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. How horrible. horrible is it too? Yeah, we're non-violent, non-threatening. All we want to do is talk the facts and concerns, and how they've ignored doing that and trying to justify it with the investigations and all those things. Yeah, and that can connect to a lot of the activist groups and stuff like that, and those groups that would have normal meetings and stuff, because they're getting fed a lot of the videos, foreign and domestic, kind of like the Epstein Island stuff, and they get fed these jerk videos of children being abused. Looks like it's being done in another country, and it's our children here. And when we try to explain those things, we usually get killed. Yeah, many of the Me's haven't made it. Christopher LaJoy, the private investigator in 2009, this gentleman right here, who shot himself in 2009, he was standing like 10 feet that way. I was trying to tell my parents the same exact. Well, I think it threatened some people because the Mayans and those kind of things he was mentioning is directly connected to the cartel and drug and all that trafficking stuff. Yeah, what's really scary is a lot of the guys who ended up targeting some of the non-vaxxers and women, or men dressed as women, right, transgender men, had a mix of it all, really, yeah. Yeah, not all of them are doing bad things, many of them, and a lot of them thought it was stupid too, going in after, a non-vaxxer with all the hardened criminals and things. You got me going into, yeah. So usually they have to have other ties to it, the cartel or drug activity. It's usually not hard to dig up some kind of, it's a criminal, dangerous person. Family's very concerned, talking to terrorists. Absolutely insane too how they manipulate the situation to try and make it look that way, and then show them little memes. It's fucking nasty and scary. We were concerned big time about that going back 2008, 9, 10. It was getting really bad. Alright, so for people to just get that and understand a lot of those videos are being shown, those are our kids here. They think it's Middle Eastern or India, other places. Some look Russian and Chinese. And those serve other purposes too, with different strong arming and political kind of purposes. Really sad and scary. These are pretty much, we call them punk-ass bitches. Pedophiles, rapists, really horrible, horrible people making a lot of money off of the abuse of our children. And they're getting the help of people all throughout the systems, and we've been trying to explain that for years. So one can only understand the madness and anger. We'll try not to have any more scheduled outbursts. We'll keep with the regularly scheduled programming. Amen. Introduction. Yeah, we'll try to read a few of the paragraphs here. I don't have too much of a reading voice, I apologize. Would you like me to post the whole introduction? More the Robin Hood one? You want me to post that one? That was really good. There's quite a long poem there. I can post that as well if you like. Oh, good. Scottish Knights. Sir Patrick. Jesus Christ. Thus was the hunting of the Cheviot. God send us ale, good ending. These are all different poems. You want me to post some of those too? It can be fun to read. It's fun to kind of try to learn. Yeah, it's different. Like, why does your brand say drap we bluid? Edward, Edward. Why does instead of it's spelling does, it's DOIS. Why does your brand say drape we bluid? What do you think that means? It's a twang, they call it, kind of speaking with a bit of a different of a twang. Slang, yeah, too. A bit of it. Slang is more of a associated to area, I think, as opposed to technicality. I don't know if that made any sense. Introduction. The term Middle Ages is commonly understood to cover the centuries of European history between the 5th and the 15th. In the brief introduction that follows, intended to furnish the reader with an approach to the specimens of literatures in many tongues and of widely separated ages which make up this volume, we shall inquire how the Middle Ages came by their name and why such a large tract of time is treated as a unit. Different as one part of it may be from another, then we shall try to single out some of its characteristic institutions and peculiar modes of literary expression. Finally, we shall throughout be concerned to observe how much of that which is designated as medieval has served to shape life as it is lived today. In attempting to imagine an age so long bygone, it is not enough merely to blot out of the picture such familiar things as airplanes, motor cars, telephones, and all the mechanism that we such store by today, because any mature person who passed his youth in the country can call a life which got on somehow without most of these things. Yet it was not medieval. However, much a critical young person today might be disposed to apply that epithet to it. To imagine oneself in the Middle Ages, it is not enough, again, to conjure up a romantic picture of knights and castles and wizards and damsels in distress, though all those things play a certain part in medieval literature and the literature that derives from it. The first step is to imagine oneself without any pockets and with very little money or none in the pouch at one's girdle. Such a plight would today be desperate indeed. Without money, there'd be no movies or opera, no social diversion, no educational opportunity, no looking at beautiful things, no membership in society. To the man of the Middle Ages, all this came, theoretically at last, without price from one source, the Church, in which everyone was incorporated in earliest infancy, though he were no better than a serf bound to the tilling of his acres. The church door stood open. In its recurrent festivals he delightedly shared, and from it he learned a way of life that promised him eternal bliss as the reward of his well-doing. To free men, and not all agricultural laborers were serfs in the later Middle Ages, the church offered a career, and ability could pass not only to the highest ecclesiastical office, but to employment in the civil service, to studious leisure, and to statecraft. The clerks tonsure set a class apart, with legal jurisdiction, a language, and a close-knit organization all its own. But there was another type besides those who labor and those who pray. the man on horseback. He also had his code, a chivalric code, in which loyalty was the virtue most cried up. Loyalty to his lord, loyalty to his lady. His real business was fighting, a picturesque and on the whole pleasant and profitable occupation, and making love, both under the most elaborate set of rules. His relaxations were hunting and feasting. The fighting man idly passed through the stages of page and squire before he won the spurs of knighthood, but a good man at arms could make a professional career for himself outside the regular routine. Similarly, the courtly lover subjected himself to a rigorous discipline, and any failure of technique might be severely judged by his social equals in a court of love. Under the feudal system, everybody was somebody's man, owed service to somebody in return for land or support of some kind, and everybody had his well-defined place in the scheme. A careful study of the organization of a political party today is perhaps the readiest way to understand how a feudal society is put together. I'll post the rest of it. You're welcome. Thank you. This, I'm pretty sure that's the Nutcracker, yeah. It's a classic. No pun intended. Be buoyant. naturally. It's pulsing. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And just because some people see it doesn't mean they're crazy, assholes. Oh my gosh, you're such a riot. Why you are just meant for the silver screen. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah, that's very true. I'm just doing some stretches. It's really good hit into your back and shoulder area. Hold that for a few breaths. Feel the oxygen going into your cells. Breathe in. Breathe out. You're alive. Oh, baby, you're alive. Forward. Pull back on the toes. Try to extend, like open up your shoulder blades. So funny. I'm working on not saying the word like too much. Why does that bother you so? You know, it doesn't bother people in the other classes. In fact, they say it way more than I do. I probably picked it up from them. It does. It's very nice. Thank you.
just to release some tension up the shoulders and the back. I like doing it that way and push back on my fingers a little bit. You'll notice a difference. It pulls on those kind of, what do you call them? Tendons, ligaments, energy lines. Yeah. And you can do it this way, this, and go like this, and like this. And you'll feel the difference. It gets into these more than it does these. Yeah, it's very cool. It's like this, the same movement, of just changing the position of your hands. Yeah, that was a breathing one. Was that on Sadhguru channel? Yeah, if you breathe with your palms up, breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth if you can. Notice if you put your palms down and then take in a slow breath. It's harder, isn't it? Way harder just having your palms up. It's way more opened up. Yeah, I thought that was a cool one. Such those little simple ones, yeah. It's very cool. Yeah, we're going to post those pages, and we might do some more out loud reading later. I'm not 100%